Have you ever lived a day that you'll never forget, but not in a good way? Well, April 26, 2008 was that day for me. And on April 26, 2016, exactly 8 years later, God redeemed a difficult and dark situation and set me free from a prison from my past that I had been in for far too long. It was a small group night, and to be completely honest, I didn't even want to go. And it's not even because we didn't like ours. I mean, it was great. But the thing is, small group would be ending for the summer, and we still felt so disconnected. That's actually a big problem that both my husband and I struggle with, opening up and connecting with other people. And that problem had reared its ugly head in our otherwise amazing small group. So at that point, we just kind of felt like giving up. Plus, I actually have really terrible social anxiety, so I honestly kind of dreaded going to small group most nights, but I would really push myself to go because I just knew that God wanted me there for some reason. On the night of April 26th, though, it was a different kind of dread I was feeling about going to small group, because I knew it wasn't a coincidence that that exact day was a small group night. Plus, I had actually just seen Allison Rowe's God story that Sunday, and she's in my small group. And I really felt like God was telling me that he wanted me to be brave and obedient like she had been in opening up with her struggles. So I was kind of like, I see what you're doing, God, and I don't like it. But I knew in my heart that there was a reason God wanted me there that night. And actually found out what that reason was when we went to close in prayer. It turned out that Diana McPhail had a prophetic word for someone, and it was for me. And it ended up simply being let go of the past.
It's quite simple, and I have no idea other than he just said that you're to let go of the past.
And you could tell that she was super nervous to even say this because it was just like this really simple thing, and she just had no idea if I would even know what God was talking about with it. Well, I looked over at Danny, and he just gave me this look that I knew was a sign from God saying, "Missy, it's time to open up," which is not something that I do very often with people. But I had been obedient to God up until this point, and so had Diana in giving me that prophecy, and Allison in sharing her story. So I knew that that's what God wanted me to do too. So I told my small group that I knew exactly what God was talking about with that. And I went on to tell them my story, which was that on that day, exactly 8 years ago, I had been robbed at knife point. And although I knew that God was right there with me through it all, it scared the life out of me and sent me spiraling into a very dark place. I actually wouldn't leave the house for a long time after, and I became even more anxious than I usually was. The thing is, though, I just kind of bottled everything up for months, actually, until it ended up making me physically sick about 5 months later. So sick that one day I just started throwing up everywhere and then passed out and had to be taken to the hospital in an ambulance. And I actually almost died at the hospital that day. And you'd think that was the worst of it, but it wasn't. Because right after that, I was diagnosed with anorexia. So yeah, that was definitely a really difficult time in my life. I mean, those three things, the robbery, the hospital, and the anorexia, isolated would have been bad enough, but all together, they were enough to just kind of break something inside of me. And I knew that God was right there with me through it all. I have no doubt about that. But that's the thing, I feel like I didn't really deal with it. I just kind of got through it. And then, after I finished telling my small group about all of this, everyone prayed over both Danny and me.
That, these 8 years, and then on the day, there's a prophetic word at small group. She happened to be here, and all of these things that are coming together, there's gonna be absolutely no question, God, that this is what you decided to do.
After they prayed for us, it was like this weight had just been lifted off of me, and I felt connected for the very first time. And we've even talked about it as a small group since then, and that night stands out as the best small group that we've had. I mean, leave it to God to take this awful day where I didn't even want to go to small group and transform it into this life-changing night, not just for me, but for everyone there. And the crazy thing is that when Paul McPhail heard that it had been 8 years to the day since all of this had happened, he actually asked me if I knew what the number 8 represented in the Bible. And he went on to tell me that it stood for new beginnings, which just blew my mind. Driving home from small group that night, I remember never having felt so free. And I don't know about you, but when I think free, I think of a butterfly. And I actually work at a school in a kindergarten class, and leading up to that day, they had been learning about butterflies, and I felt like God just kept putting this picture in my head of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Well, I figured it was just because what was going on at work, but it was only when Danny and I were driving home after small group that night that it finally clicked for me. A caterpillar literally has to go through its darkest time in order to see the light and be set free and become this beautiful new creation that can now fly. So I was like, wow, seriously, God? Because just like with me, just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. So whenever you don't feel like going to small group, or you're afraid of opening up and being vulnerable, remember that God can take even your darkest moments and make something beautiful.